Breathe, just breathe.
Breathe, just breathe.
Breathe, just breathe. And let your tenderness be held.
Breathe, just breathe. And let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe. And let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe. And let your tenderness be held.
More life, lechaim. More life, more life, more life.
More life, lechaim, 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 more life.
More life, lechaim. More life, more life, more life. More life, lechaim, 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 more life. You've given me this goodness, restored my life anew. With every breath, I thank you. My life is a song for you. More life, lechaim.
Let your
More life, more life, more life. More life, lechaim.
let your
Lechaim, more life. More life, lechaim.
let your
More life, more life, more life. More life, lechaim. Lechaim, lechaim, more life. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held.
Just breathe.
breathe, just breathe. Breathe, just breathe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Institute for Jewish Spirituality's third annual Evening of Gratitude. My name is Marvin Israelo, and I'm honored currently to be serving as the chair of the board of directors here at IJS. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you for joining us here, and we're so delighted that so many of you could make it to join us tonight. IJS programs offer Jewish spiritual practices that we use to cultivate awareness. We use to connect with the greater authenticity in ourselves and others and the source of all that is. Our spiritual practices invite us to access the deep wisdom of our tradition and to deepen our connection to Judaism. Through retreats and cohort programs, online offerings, we facilitate communities of practice in which thousands of people learn to live and lead with a sense of sacred purpose. We do this through mindfulness, meditation, prayer, Torah study, yoga, and more. Tonight's program is a celebration of the people in our lives who teach us, support us, and inspire us. It's an opportunity to reflect on all that we have to be grateful for. We have a compelling conversation between three spiritual leaders, a brief spiritual practice, and a new song premiered by a member of our faculty. It's really so great for all of us here to be together. As I'm about to turn this over to our IJS president and CEO, Rabbi Josh Feigelson, I can't pass up the opportunity to acknowledge that each of our special guests tonight, you, Sylvia, you, Sheila, and you, Angela, in each of your own unique ways, have been sources of light and wisdom for me and have guided me on my path. And for this, on this evening of gratitude, I want to publicly express my profound, heartfelt gratitude. And with that, I'm going to turn it over now to IJS President and CEO, Rabbi Josh Feigelson.
Thanks so much, Marvin. And thank you, everybody, for joining us here tonight. It's so great to see so many of you here. I'm really excited to introduce our special guest for tonight, which is why I know so many of you are here. And so I'm going to introduce them, and I'll have a chance to say a few words at the end after our conversation and after the wonderful new piece of music that I want to make sure you hear from Rabbi Miriam Margles. For many folks here, I imagine Sylvia Boorstein may be somebody who needs no introduction. For the last half century, Sylvia has been one of the leading teachers of insight meditation in the United States. Her books include It's Easier Than You Think, The Buddhist Way to Happiness, Don't Just Do Something, Sit There, and Pay Attention, for goodness sake. I first met Sylvia nearly 25 years ago when she came to my rabbinical school to speak about her book, That's Funny You Don't Look Buddhist, which explored how she had maintained a deep connection to and practice of Judaism. Even as she was busy founding and teaching at Spirit Rock Meditation Center in Northern California, where she lives, Sylvia was part of the group of teachers that helped establish the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. She taught in our very first cohort for rabbis 24 years ago, and it is a genuine delight and honor to have her with us here tonight. Joining Sylvia in conversation is another beloved and legendary teacher, Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg. Sheila's career has included work as a congregational rabbi, a widely published writer and poet, and a longtime faculty member here at IJS. Sheila is the author of multiple books, including Surprisingly Happy, God Loves the Stranger, How to Find Peace and Harmony in an Unsettled World, and her most recent and amazing book, Let Us All Breathe Together, Prose, Poems, and Practices, which I encourage everybody here to buy a copy of. And if you still want to donate $1,800, you can get a signed copy from Sheila as well. And it's not too late to do that. Sheila continues to teach and write, and I am deeply grateful that she serves as a member of the IJS Wisdom Council and that she joins us in this conversation this evening. Leading our conversation tonight is Rabbi Angela Buchdahl. Angela is senior rabbi at Central Synagogue in New York. She's the first woman to hold that position in the nearly 200-year history of that synagogue. Angela has many well-deserved accolades and claims to fame, but I want to highlight two you may not know. First, Angela and I have known each other for almost 30 years, I think, as she was 4 years ahead of me at Yale and would regularly come back to visit her now sister-in-law, who is a classmate of mine. So we go back a bit. Second, and more significant, is that Angela is an alum of our clergy leadership program, which she has told me she counts as among the most transformative experiences of her life and important parts of her rabbinic leadership. We are so grateful to Angela for joining us tonight and for leading tonight's conversation. Before I hand it over to Angela, I just want to also say we encourage you, as always, in these live events to ask questions. We know we're not going to get to all of them, but we will try to get to as many as we can, and we'll try to cluster them and make sure that we can respond to as many of your questions as we can. To ask a question, please use the chat in Zoom, and you can see the Q&A. There's a person called Q&A. That's Molly Easton on our staff, and Molly is staffing the Q&A box tonight, and she will make sure that questions get fed over to Angela. So without any further ado, this is a really wonderful and I dare say historic conversation. Angela, Sylvia, Sheila, so great to have you. Welcome.
What a privilege to be here. So Sylvia, I think you're leading us first in a little practice.
I am. One of the things, and thank you, Angela. One of the things that I do whenever I'm starting to teach a group or anywhere, really come together for a meeting, I sit down and I say to people, with your eyes open, people often imagine a contemplative moment is going to say, close your eyes. With your eyes open, look around and see all of these people in their homes who've invited you in. I've been so careful not to say, look at the people in their boxes. They're not in boxes, they're in their homes and they've invited you in. And when I think that, I feel so good about everybody who's invited me in. And we each get to see one page full of people who have invited us into 25 different homes. And if I look around on my page, I know that I know some people, oh, there's so-and-so, and there's so-and-so, and I haven't seen them in a few years, and I don't know that person, but they have a name, just like somebody else that I know. I invite you to look around and see who's on your most immediate view. Take a minute and just look at them and see how your heart registers them. Say, oh, look at that person. Oh, they have the same name as my cousin. Oh, look at that other person. I haven't seen her or him in a long time. If you want to, just before I quieten down a little bit, move to one other page. Look at another page. Look at all those people. Look at that one. Look at them. Oh, there's so-and-so. Oh, wow. I don't know anybody. But look, that person I do know. Wow, this is great. Look around and see how contact with all these people lights up your heart. Want to do one more? Let's do one more. Look on one more page. Say, oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. One of my lines of teaching that I use a lot is a line from Shalvi, the daughter of Zalman Schachter Shalomi of blessed memory, who he taught us, said to him one morning when she was 4 years old and came into his bedroom, her parents' bedroom, Papa, Abba, is it, you know how when you get up in the morning and you were asleep and then you wake up? And he said, yes. And she said, once you're up, can you wake more up than up? And it's been my quintessential teaching story for all that time. And it's what the Institute is doing and what all of us in all the various ways that we've been practicing, knowingly or not knowingly in our lives, is we are trying to wake more up than up so that we really fully embody these lives and feel thrilled to be living them. So here we are in 25 people's homes, and I'll be quiet. And I'd like for you, when I'm quiet now, to look around and pick out one person, then another person, then another, long enough for you to really look at them. And as if you had telepathy from your heart into that person's heart, make a wish for them. May you feel peaceful, may you can feel content, may you be relaxed. Make a bracha for them. Find somebody who doesn't even know you're blessing them and give them a blessing. Really, really. And then find another person maybe somebody you don't know at all, and make a blessing for them. May you, whatever your words are for blessing somebody, all the while feeling how you feel while you're doing this. And then find another person and see what happens. Actually say words in your mind as if the telepathy is going. It's a text from your heart into their heart. And breathe in and breathe out. Be cognizant of how your body feels in blessing mode. And then look at somebody else. Blessing mode. And someone else. Just whatever you'd say in a blessing. Be well, take care of yourself. And then just look at everybody at one time. Everybody. And imagine that your blessing capacity has now, it was always this way. We were thinking we were blessing one person, but you are the vehicle is blessing and everybody gets it. So think about all these 25 people and say, all of them together, may they be well, may they be content, may their day go well, may their worries be assuaged, may they feel good to be alive, may they thrive. Look at them all at one time. And then realizing that every one of these people in their home has a whole family of people that they're connected to. Their kin that's in their same home with them. And their kin that's not in their same home. And imagine that the bracha goes through them and to their kin and to their kin's kin, to everybody that you know, and through all of those people, that it continues through the mysterious ways that blessings carry in the world of thought and heart. And it's not so far to come to may all beings everywhere, may all human beings be at ease. All human beings in the family of humans being born and living and dying, may they all be at ease, may they all thrive, may they all live well. My blessing be a part of it. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, and we can all say,
Amen. Thank you so much, Sylvia. Leave it to Sylvia to make a Zoom meeting a mindful and spiritual experience. I don't know that I've ever felt quite like that on a Zoom meeting yet. But it is beautiful to be in all of your homes and scrolling through these pages and pages of faces reminds us that we're part of a much bigger community of people who are seeking this kind of mindfulness practice. It's really powerful to be on with more than 500 of you right now and others who are joining. And it is an incredible experience. And part of that reminder, you know, we're each in our individual boxes, but that we really are a community and we are sharing our attention right now with each other, which is its own gift and presence. And sometimes we want to, if we were in a room, we would all be expressing ourselves, sometimes audibly or with our physical bodies in ways that is much harder to do on Zoom. But we want to teach you one way that while you are on this call with us, that we could actually remind each other that we are feeling and expressing things and maybe others share in them. So with just a couple of hand motions I could teach you, I invite you that any time that you feel moved, that you would put your hands on your heart. Can I just invite you to do that for a moment? So if you hear something tonight, as we're having this conversation and you're feeling moved, you could just put your hand on your heart. And I think it'll help remind us that it's a way of expressing to each other how we're feeling. If you hear something that you agree with deeply, like you want to say amen, that you would shout amen to it or say, I'm with you. I invite you to just take your fingers and just do this little motion. Can I invite you to do that for a moment? I'm feeling that. So, for example, if you are, you can't believe you get to be in this Zoom meeting with two of the great matriarchs of the Jewish mindfulness movement, and you are feeling filled up, I invite you to just either agree or feel that sense of gratitude. Exactly. If you already feel a little bit more peaceful, I'm already feeling much more peaceful than I did 10 minutes ago when I was anxiously trying to get on my Zoom and make sure my lighting was okay and we were going to make it on time. So I invite us to, at any time that you want to express yourself, since we're all, too many of us are muted, this is one of the ways, in addition to, of course, the chat box, which we invite you to use as well to express yourself and to relate, but a quick way for us to remind ourselves that we're sharing an experience together. So if I may, I hardly feel like I'm leading this conversation. I feel very, very grateful to be facilitating a conversation with two of my sheroes of Jewish mindfulness, and to share that I grew up in a house where meditation and mindfulness was deeply practiced by my Korean Buddhist mother. And she used to meditate and go down in the basement for like several hours, and then she would emerge and she would talk about how mindfulness was the only thing that relieved her of her migraine headaches and helped her see things. And so I was obviously very, excited to try meditation, which I tried at different points in my life. But for some reason, every time I tried it, and sometimes I'd give it a couple of days, sometimes even a week or two, I had concluded that it just didn't work for me. I couldn't make it right. And it wasn't until I came to IJS now more than a decade ago, and learned with Sheila, that I realized that it was really a practice, that this wasn't just about like having an experience of a white light that was going to somehow change everything in one instant. And I think I had the wrong impression of what I was expecting. And suddenly when I adjusted my own sense of expectation and settled into the practice as it was, something shifted. And as Josh said, it really has been the most important thing I've learned as a rabbi in helping me do everything that I do as a rabbi and as a mother and a wife and a human being. And so I'm really, really grateful, because in so many ways, this confluence of mindfulness, that in many ways, some of it comes from other traditions and Judaism, has been championed by these two women that we get to speak with tonight. So, and it was courageous and out of the box when each of them did it. Now it feels almost mainstream. To have all of you here is a reminder that so many of us are doing it: rabbis, cantors, educators, and lots of Jews. So, but maybe I would start with you, Sylvia, and ask you, how did you discover mindfulness and meditation, and what drew you to it?
Okay, let me, it's a long time ago, but I think I'm an accidentally, my husband went to a mindfulness retreat and he came home and said, "So you have to do this. This is great." And I'm a congenial person, so I did. And I discovered that I loved sitting quietly. So I want to have a right away caveat. Mindfulness is not sitting quietly. Mindfulness is paying attention. If it's loud or quiet or whatever it is, it's about paying attention. But I also love to be on retreat, and my mind felt relieved to not have to process things so fast. And I didn't actually know, because 45 years ago, I think we had more amazing supernatural things that we hoped were going to happen. People would talk about what light shining out from people, or people who levitated off their meditation cushion. And I didn't even know that I wanted that to happen. But I was really thinking maybe there was some really super things that were going to happen. What happened was I felt a little better. And I don't often get to tell this story, but this way, but here we are starting out. At the end of 10 days in a very rigorous mindfulness retreat, away from home, no talking, none of that. But sitting and walking and sitting and walking, just allowing my mind to settle down so it wasn't so unclear. I called my husband the night before it ended to tell him that, remind him of what time my plane was due. And of course, we had been in silence the whole 10 days, and I certainly hadn't made a phone call. But when the silence was ended and people were getting ready to leave, I phoned him. And in the conversation, I said, "How's my dad?" And I said, "The news is not good. Your dad has been, he was feeling peaked when I left. Your dad has been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and he has probably 2 years that he's going to live, maybe maximum." And I remember, because I've told this story now a number of times, that it did not affect me. I just rose above it. It affected me terribly because I'm an only child of an only child, and I loved him tremendously. And I knew, whoa, and he lived nearby me. We were really great buddies. And I also knew, I said, "Tell him we'll take care of it. I'll go home. When I get home, we'll just do it together." And there was a part of me that said, "Okay, we'll just do it." And that I thought to myself afterwards, I'm sure everybody here has gotten a phone call in their life of some devastating news when you feel like the floor opens up and you could just fall through it. And I did not feel like the floor opened up and I fell through it. And I thought, I didn't even think it at that time. Oh, look at this. I managed that. I'm going to become a mindfulness teacher. Nothing, but I knew that happened. And I knew that I had the poise in that moment to say, "I'll come home and we'll do it together." And we did do it together. But I began to discover, as I was studying it and began to know how it worked, that the mind, when it's resting, has a little moment in between becoming completely distraught that it could say, "Okay, this is happening. What should I do now?" And that little piece of reflective place where the mind could be reflective, say, "I really don't like this, but what should I do now?" And it just was so fortuitous that it happened just at that moment, in case I didn't notice that my mind could be otherwise, because I'm not a particularly calm person. And I really, I have a tendency to worry. I'm a champion fretter. I'm actually a recovering fretter after 40 years of practice with it, which is a whole other story. But I never went back. I just knew that there was something there that could teach my mind to receive life in a way that would work more for me.
It's beautiful.
Sheila has
It's very it's very powerful for us to hear that, like, the mother of mindfulness is a recovering fretter, that like we can your whole being is a non-anxious presence, but to understand that maybe there was a time when you actually had a whole lot more fretting and anxiety, and that this was a tool for you. And what a powerful story of, I think, not a coincidence that it came right at the time that you would need it.
Complete disclosure is that after 45 years of practice, the mind, in that momentary startle about, this might happen, has a momentary startle, and before it says, "Whoa," it says, "Wait a minute, sweetheart, you're about to run into some catastrophizing thought. Don't go there." That's 45 minutes. It doesn't not happen, the catastrophizing thought. It doesn't catch me so
You're
much.
just able to shift. Yes.
Mostly. Say, "Don't do that, sweetheart. It's not worth it. Stay here."
And still
Sheila has a beginning story that's more interesting than mine, though.
Sheila, tell us how you begin and what drew you.
Well, I came from a very Jewish place, to say the least. As a child, even, I got very deeply attracted to Judaism, particularly to the prophets, and then disillusioned. It was very important for me that my Jewish spirituality was also in alignment with social justice. And I got somewhat disillusioned. I came back for sideways, went through some disappointments in life, divorce, and a lot of pain. And at one point I heard they were women rabbis, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm supposed to be. But I'm already too old. I must be like 25 or something, 28, at that point. And what I used really for my pain was self-medicating, mostly through alcohol. And as a single parent, I had little kids. I found an amazing Jewish community in Philadelphia when the kids were little. It was the home of Zalman Schachter, Shalomi, and Art Green, as a matter of fact, in my minion. But I was doing a lot. I was single parenting, and at a certain point, I did go to rabbinical school, and that almost destroyed my spiritual life, but that's beside the point. And the most important thing I did was get sober.
Mm.
And I did get sober through Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was a profound spiritual experience, because I had to ask a power greater than myself, really, to help me do what I couldn't do on my own. And I had already had glimmers of meditation, but I never made it to a retreat until several years after I gotten sober. I moved to Massachusetts, and I was actually right near Insight Meditation, and a very beloved man who was actually on the search committee for the rabbi said, he was also on the board of Insight Meditation, which was the Buddhist center. He said, there's an amazing center. They're very close to here, 45 minutes. And I went. And that was my first 10 days. I went for a 10-day retreat, which was crazy in a sense, to go for your first experience of meditation for a 10-day retreat. And it was very difficult because I saw how crazy I was in my head. I could actually feel all the vibrations, all the anxiety. And I also eventually, as Sylvia spoke, as the time settled, I could also feel something greater. The greater, Sam Fine-Smith always refers to it as, the consciousness, the loving awareness, Jeff Roth calls loving awareness, the wholeness, the echad, the unification, the one, that which holds all the craziness, that can hold, that can settle, that center. And it's, when we say the Shema, that's what we're saying, we're calling on the one, we're calling on the unification that holds us. And can we return there? So I thought, oh my God, here's a Buddhist center, but I could teach this in Jewish. I have to teach this in Jewish. I have to make this Jewish. That was my first impulse. Then the mind starts going, So that was the beginning. And then we moved on from there. A couple of years after that, I met Sylvia. And that was amazing because we were doing some groups about the Jews and the Jubus, and who were the Jews that were practicing Buddhism, and the Jews that were interested in meditation, maybe, but the Buddhists who were Jewish, but and the word came out that Sylvia Boorstein was a Jew who was one of the main meditators and main Buddhists, but who actually was willing to be Jewish, because all the rest of the Jews who were Buddhists didn't want to own their Judaism. But Sylvia was willing to meet and talk to other Jews about spirituality. It was amazing. So I met Sylvia.
Wow.
I want to know a sweet story just on that point.
Of course.
Some years ago, not 20 years ago, maybe 15, I was taking a walk somewhere with my friend and teacher, and now colleague Joseph Goldstein. And he said to me, so tell me, do you think that Buddhism is really a complete path to physical, mental freedom, a valid, complete path? And I said, yes, I think it is. And he said, then why would you want to complicate it with Judaism? And I said, the thing is, I am complicated with Judaism. So
Can't help it.
and
That's a brilliant answer.
And if you're complicated with Judaism, it's the wallpaper on the inside of your mind, so that things happen and you have the vocabulary to articulate it out of a lifetime of Jewish responsive vocabulary. Thank God. This happened, whatever you want to say.
We also were not taught in my era. It was just things were shifting post World War II. Judaism for us was very rational. It was the Enlightenment. It was about thinking, theology. It was, or do good stuff. But we didn't know about the mystical tradition in Judaism. We didn't know. I mean, first of all, so many of the Jewish teachers were killed in the Holocaust. The spiritual teachers were wiped out.
Yeah.
And we didn't study Zohar. We didn't study Hasidus. We didn't study that kind of stuff. That was being brought in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Zalman was brought from Chabad, came to America and started teaching it in a way that American Jews could absorb. And there's a lot of similarity between Jewish mystical teaching, which has been developed at IJS, by the way, by people like Jonathan Slater, and then taken over by Sam Feinsmith and many others, but so brilliantly elevated, as you know, Jewish spiritual texts that we never knew, we never learned, and that they actually dovetail amazingly well with mindfulness practice.
That's absolutely right. It's like it's been rediscovered and reclaimed. So obviously you're very Jewish souls mixed in with this complicated, your complicated identities kind of pulled all these pieces together. So what was the impetus for IJS? Like it didn't exist before, and we'd love to hear kind of the origin story.
I'll tell the first part, Sylvia, you tell the second part. So Sylvia and I have to mention a very important person named Rachel Cowan, Aleha Shalom, who at that time, in all kinds of circumstances, was working for the Nathan Cummings Foundation and was incredibly creative and open to various new projects. And Charlie Halpern, who was the head of the Nathan Cummings Foundation, Rachel was working with the Jewish aspects of it, they first funded, we did a little retreat, and then Charlie said, now, I don't want you to do, conferences. Let just Sylvia and Sheila teach. And he funded those. So Sylvia and I started teaching, and then we moved it to Eilat Chaim, and Jeff Ross started teaching with us. And Nathan Cummings was funding us at that time to do retreats for lay people, rabbis, various people. And then we decided we were going to do a series of 4 retreats for these people. Sylvia, Jeff, and I, we called the Mindfulness Leadership Training Program. And there were 4 retreats over the course of whatever, a year and a half, just like the IJS. And then Rachel and Sylvia, spoke, right? So Sylvia, you take it from there.
Well, I was thinking that Rachel and I had been friends since we'd met, I guess, at that fateful Jewish Buddhist dialogue at the
Barry.
And in Barry, where you and I met. And wait a minute, there was like something else. Charlie Halpern was there, and we met each other. And then he said, you ought to be teaching. Never mind, let's not have any more conferences. Let's just the 2 of you teach. So we taught some retreats there, and Rachel and I became friends, and we were talking on the phone. Rachel, by the way, I miss her a lot, especially when we talk about her. So I just want to say about Rachel, at one of the gatherings in honor of Rachel, while she was still living in
BJ,
but I can't remember what was the occasion. But anyway, it's a big occasion honoring her at BJ. And the person who was introducing everybody in the beginning said, how many here have known Rachel for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? A lot of people knew Rachel forever. And then somebody said, how many people here know the secret code to Rachel's apartment? And everybody in the room put up their hand. Everybody in New York knew how to get into Rachel's apartment building. But she was, I want to give her that kavod today, because she was the most open-hearted person I've ever known. And she was determined that I was talking to her on the phone one day, way back when it was still formative. And she said, what do you do with people when they've had some retreats and they want more training? I said, well, we have these training programs where they sign up and they come for 2 years, 3, 4 retreats during the 2 years, and they have a mentor during that time. And then as I'm talking to her, I can hear tick, 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 tick in the background because Rachel's on her computer ticking out the framework for the IJS retreats at that point. And that she just took that from what I said, the idea of mentors, the idea of groups in between. And she was a dynamo of a person and with such infinite love and trust. And anyway, so
I want to say,
to honor her in the IJS.
and
Her spirit is invoked in this moment.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Also, Nancy Flam,
Yeah.
was best friend of Rachel's, and they went to rabbinical school together, and they started the Healing Center, the Jewish Healing Center. And then Charlie met Art Green, and that made him realize that this could be Jewish. This stuff could actually be Jewish. They could actually pull in some of the Jewish sources, I think, and Michael Fishbane, and actually do some kind of an integration. So we started having meetings. Sylvia and I were teaching at Elav Chaim, and we started having meetings with Art and Jonathan Omerman, Alav HaShalom, also, who was also a dear friend of Rachel. So, it all came together. And Nancy was such a brilliant organizer and thinker. So she got the initial planning of the first IJS rabbinic cohort. We decided, our thinking was we're going to work with rabbis, and Rachel wanted to go beyond an Elav Chaim sort of Jewish rule. She wanted to be more mainstream, with the idea, at least the fantasy, that if the rabbis could meet their own spiritual depth, it would transmit to the community.
Absolutely.
I think that is.
I don't want to let this moment pass without, we have 500 people. I need to tell them the story of at one of those initial Buddhist, not Buddhist, but all Jews meeting at the Barry Center. Joseph Goldstein came to one of those meetings, and he was the chief guy at the Barry Buddhist Center. And Art Green was there, and Joseph walked in and crossed over the room to meet Art, and he put out his hand and he said, I am Joseph. And Art said, is our father still alive? And you can't possibly be in a situation that's such a setup ever in your life. And we didn't plan it, but it was so great. I am
Joseph never got it. Joseph didn't get it.
Still living.
I love it. Well, there's such a deep sense of richness of history. And it is interesting how much people want to feel like this is not just a borrowed tradition, but somehow goes way back deep for us. And certainly we have learned Hasidic texts and mystical texts, but we can go back to Musar texts, which go back to, I don't know, 9th century or so. And I just got a question from Iris who asked, was meditation even something that that Abraham or Moses did? And I we want to go all the way back. I do think that there is a verse that talks about Isaac lasua basadeh, which is like that word lasua is sort of like, we don't exactly know what it is, but it kind of is like meditation. So I don't know if you have a different answer for that, but I think that even if we didn't hear that they meditated, or if Isaac, it seems like that word might be that he meditated in the field, but even if it doesn't go all the way back to biblical times, I think that our ancestors had a very different sense of being mindful and paying attention to things. Even Moses's bush incident is a mindfulness moment. I don't know if you have another answer for it. How deep does this go? Is this not just borrowed from Eastern tradition?
No, I think it's not just borrowed, Angela, because I think that the idea that we have that meditated means close your eyes and closet yourself away. And I think it's a bad translation. There is mindfulness meditation that means take some time and closet yourself and maybe work on really watching how the mind settles down, what it processes, what comes up for you. But mindfulness, the word vipassana, which is what mindfulness meditation was called when it came first to this country 50 years ago, translates as seeing clearly. And the proper name of this kind of practice would be seeing clearly meditation, clear seeing meditation. And I think that that's what it is, because then it takes it out of the realm of close your eyes and closet yourself away. And how long did you practice every day? And some of the stories about how long did you practice is the Buddha is said to have said you should know when you wake up in the morning, you wake up on an in-breath or an out-breath, and fall asleep the same. But it doesn't make any sense to think that, because those are not the clearest moments. I think it's a cryptic way of saying all day long, pay attention. Pay attention when you're praying. Pay attention when you're invoking whatever you're invoking. Pay attention when you're blessing, but pay attention when you're eating or serving or taking care of people or driving your car or standing online in the supermarket. It means not going along in life in a private internal life while the world is going on outside. It means fully embodying your life so that it's able to live alive in the milieu that it is, which is what we're all trying to do, trying to wake up so we realize our connection to all beings, so we can say, you know, because you look out with that look and you realize, whoa, everybody's having a life just like me, with trials and woes. And go, Sheila.
I love that idea of clear-eyed meditation, you know.
Another, I mean, we could go on with this, but another linkage, perennial linkage, is if our story is a story of freedom, right? Yeah, Mitzrayim, we're always talking about getting out of Egypt. What is freedom? The journey towards freedom. And what is slavery? And it's slavery of self and other. You know, what it, you know, it goes everything that Sylvia said, what to actually get more conscious so that we can see where we are actually stuck, bound, going into reactivity, going into old wounds, ancestral pain, etc., and acting out of those places, and attending, finding this God, the divine, the power of awareness, of consciousness, of clarity, of unification. We could call that so many different things, the great mystery, and bringing that to help liberate us to the extent that it can in this lifetime, you know. Maybe we have more lifetimes.
It's beautiful. And both of your personal stories were stories of liberation, in a sense, from what constricted you and held you. And so that's a beautiful way of thinking about that. I love that. As mindfulness is liberation theology, I guess.
Well, it's liberation from the old patterns of life, of your mind, so that you can see clearly. And maybe if this is the last sentence, I'd like to add this. One of the lines that comes from a book called The Heart of Buddhist Meditation, which is a discussion of the instructions for mindfulness, which, by the way, are non-parochial, or just how to pay attention, is it says, once you can pay attention really clearly, then you have clear comprehension of purpose. So it's not just mindful to be mindful, but clear comprehension of purpose. If we could see clearly how much the whole world is suffering, we'd stop fighting with it and take care of it. That's what I think it's mean. I love that thing, clear comprehension of your purpose. What are we doing? We're not trying to be good meditators. We're trying to be compassionate people.
Relieve suffering. What could be more Jewish?
Yeah.
Yes. That's right. I have a question here from Susan, which I'll kind of paraphrase. You know, any suggestions on how to bring some of this Jewish meditation or neo-Hasidic or Musar mystical teachings and awareness to synagogues that are, or, you know, oriented in a more conservative Torah study, intellectual, rational, you know, the way the Jewish world has kind of operated for a long time, into that kind of a space?
You know, you just start with who is ever interested. There's no way to force, you know, there are going to be a few people. There might be a few people. That's how we started in the synagogues that I've been part of. We got together and we offered, we taught, we brought our, you know, together. And so that was Tuesday morning, you know, this is Tuesday morning from 9 to 10, we do this, and that's part of it. And people will join or they won't join. It's not a missionary. It's not a missionary project. It has to join by attraction, really, truly, you know, by articulating as clearly as possible, but inviting people in. I mean, that it has that in common with the 12-step programs. You know, they don't go advertising, you know. So even in communities that are not that oriented, and I think that makes sense. I mean, you could bring in people to, a scholar in residence kind of thing, but it's not for everybody. And it's not a bad thing if it's not for you. It's not a bad thing. There's definitely more women than men.
I'll share that I many years ago after IJS, I came back. I was feeling a little evangelical, honestly, about it. And I wanted to come to share it with everybody. And I offered that I would lead a meditation. I think I had like 4 people show up, and that was fine. We did it a couple of times. But interestingly, sometimes it's about timing. So during the pandemic, when everyone was locked down, like really we weren't leaving our homes. And I realized that I didn't think I was going to make it through if I didn't have a regular meditation practice. And I've been like sporadic in my, in how well I've practiced, I think sometimes. But I thought if I lead meditation, that'll hold me accountable to meditate every day. So I said, I'm going to start a daily meditation practice while we're in this lockdown, thinking I was going to do it for like the next 3 weeks. Little did I know it was going to be like 7 months. But this daily meditation, like the first day I led it, we had 150 people phone and it was just on Zoom. And very soon we got to 400 or 500 people a day that were meditating with me. And it was, this is a community that, quote, didn't meditate before, right? So I couldn't even get a half dozen people to show up in person 8 years ago. And so part of this was just when people needed it, we found it, and we found that moment. And we kept that going for a very long time. Then I moved to 2 days a week, and it was a lot of work to kind of prepare the teaching every time. And I now do it still years later. Now we're doing it once a week, but I'm grateful that I still have this large meditation circle that joins me. And so it evolves. And I love the idea that you start with who wants it. And you also just never know when people might need it. I am so sorry to say that we are basically out of time for this portion. We could talk, I could ask you many, many more questions, but it feels like such a gift. And I just want to thank you both for your openness in sharing part of your own personal story, both how you got here and why it resonated for you. And just to share that even in sharing some of your own vulnerabilities, I see the strength of who you are as women and as our teachers and really as our founders. It's again, just a reminder what incredible gifts you are to our community. And I personally have benefited so much from what you've brought. So thank you again. This has been such a gift to be a part of this. And now I am so grateful that we continue to open our hearts with an original song. We're going to hear the very first time a new song, a premiere of a new song from IJS Senior Core Faculty, Miriam Margles. So I pass it to Miriam. Thank you.
Halala, Adonai, Yamma Mama Yamma Bechayai. 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 Azamra Lelohai, Yamma Mama Yamma Beodi. Azamra Lelohai, Yamma Mama Yamma Beodi. Yamma Beodi.
What an amazing moment to hear that new song, Miriam. Thank you. It's great to see you on camera with your family there joining you also. Before I say what I'm going to say, first of all, stick around. We're not quite done yet. Before I say what I'm going to say, just a housekeeping note. Many people have asked if the recording from tonight's event will be shared. The answer is yes. We'll be sending it out to everyone who registered in the next couple of days. I also want to add that we were overwhelmed with the number of people who submitted gratitudes with their registration form. Thank you so much to everyone who did. Some of those showed up on the screen at the beginning and some will in a moment at the end. A full list will be sent out to everybody who registered along with that recording. If you're here, you have already contributed to our work with your registration, and I want to thank you so much for that. And if you're feeling moved by what we've shared tonight, by what this community, our teachings, our practices, and our people mean to you, I would invite you to consider making an additional gift. The link to do so will be in the chat. There it is right now. As we wrap up this evening of gratitude, I want to offer some of our own gratitudes to our development staff, Maydell Goodman-Benamy, Elizabeth Cohen, Sherry Edelstein, and especially to Molly Easton, who did so much heavy lifting behind the scenes. Thank you. To our amazing panel. Is that the right word? It's not even a panel. I'm not sure what it is. This amazing gathering of Rabbi Angela Buchdahl, Rabbi Sheila Weinberg, and Sylvia Borstein. What an incredible gift to spend this evening in your company. Thank you. To my friend and colleague, Rabbi Miriam Margles, for this brand new song, Azamra, and to the rest of the band and producers who helped bring it to life, thank you. To the rest of our faculty and staff who do so much every day to create, nurture, and sustain this incredible community across North America and around the world, thank you. To our partners at Or Halev, One Table, Open Door Media, the Awaken Heart Project, Ramah Beyond, and more, who toil with us in the field, we are honored by your company. Thank you. To our board of directors, who are such amazing stewards of this ship and such wonderful companions on the journey, thank you. To our donors and our foundation partners who believe in our mission and invest in it and support it, thank you. To the over 640 of you who registered for this event and the over 500 who came, who collectively contributed over $57,000, helping us earn our matching grant from the Angel Foundation, thank you. And to the thousands of people who have participated in our programs and brought your presence to our community over the past year, from our daily sit to our clergy leadership program, from our online courses to our tech study program, from our retreats to our podcast to our weekly Shabbat posts on Instagram. Thank you for making IJS, our teachings and our practices part of your life. Thank you for making this community of practice so meaningful for so many. Our mission at IJS is to develop and teach Jewish spiritual practices so that individuals and communities, all of us here tonight, and the many more of us beyond, may experience greater awareness, purpose, and interconnection, all the things that Sheila and Sylvia and Angela were talking about. We have done so much in the past year to pursue that mission, to be here for you and so many others, and to transform Jewish life and the world in the process. And we will continue to deepen and expand our work in pursuit of that mission in the months and years ahead. We are, all of us, partners in this sacred and special project, and we are so honored and grateful to be on this journey together with you. Thank you again, and good night.
Breathe, just breathe.
Breathe, just breathe.
Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held.
Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. More life, l'chaim.
לחיים, לחיים more life. You've given me this goodness, restored my life anew. With every breath, I thank you. My life is a song for you. More life, more life, l'chaim.
Let your
More life, more life, more life. More life, more life, l'chaim.
Let your
L'chaim, l'chaim, more life. More life, more life, l'chaim.
let your
More life, more life, more life. More life, more life, l'chaim.
let your
L'chaim, l'chaim, more life. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be felt. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Breathe, just breathe, and let your tenderness be held. Tenderness be held.
Just breathe.
breathe. Just breathe.
Breathe.
Just breathe.